Back here, I'm Brian Hall with the Orlando.net user group, and we are here at Orlando Code Camp 2013. And with me I have Atley Hunter, the man who writes 1,000 apps an hour. And today you are talking about, what do we have? Custom controls in the modern UI, and then we're also doing 2 screens for the code of 1.
Yeah.
So tell me about the custom controls first.
Well, one of the things that I've found has been really instrumental in being able to write a large number of applications is looking at what the use case and what the necessities of the applications are, and I take my application ideas and I divide them up into what technologies they need to use, and then I sort of group them together based on the things that they're using, either sensors or maps or the other things. And then what I'll do is I'll go in and make a custom control that affects as much of the needs of that group of applications as I can, and then it allows me to reuse the controls
So
much more effectively.
So that again gives you the ability to write the amount of apps that you've done.
Exactly.
You're reusing a lot of those controls, just tweaking them for that particular app's purpose.
Exactly. What I'll do is I'll make the app or the control as extensible as I can to allow it to affect what's needed for as many apps as I can for it. And then what that also allows me to do is to also maintain my apps much more easily, because if I do one change or one optimization to the control, it then affects 5, 10, 15, 20 apps.
Right.
And then I release the updates for those apps, and so I get good code reuse. I also get good maintenance, and it allows me to really optimize what I'm doing and really extend the code reuse, which is really important in this day and age.
Yeah, especially as you're writing apps and whatnot. So.
Oh, exactly.
And you're doing that for Windows Phone and Windows 8.
Yes.
Both of those platforms.
Yes.
And have you reused controls across one to the other?
Not so much, just because when you come to the difference between the phone and the tablet or desktop, there's very few of the controls that you're going to use the same way.
Right.
I mean, there's a couple of general ones, but realistically what you're going to be doing is the namespaces for the UI and the XAML elements tend to be different.
Right.
Part of it's by design, part of it's because they're in the process of bringing the 2 platforms closer together and they haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
But when it comes right down to it, I find that I'll rebuild or I'll build code controls for one platform, but I won't shift them across to another platform, mainly because I want to keep the focus on what the UI, making sure that I'm taking advantage and handling gestures and doing creating the experience in the UI look and feel for that particular device or that particular platform.
Right.
And I find that if a lot of times you'll say, well, if you want to use a list box, that's fine, but a list box is a fairly general control. Sometimes what I'll do is I will create data templates that can be reused for certain types of data elements, and that can be used across different platforms. But that's more of a styles sheet, like a common style sheet like you have in Windows 8 or Windows RT apps. But I really think that you need to focus on getting the right stuff for that particular platform.
Yeah.
So across the platforms doesn't seem to work.
The metaphors for tablet are different than for
the whole experience is different. I mean, the way you're holding it, how you're handling it, the gestures you're using one hand or 2 hands. Phone, a lot of it is you're making sure that it can be usable properly with one hand.
Right.
Because we're always trying to do something with our phone while we're holding a bag or got our kid's hand, or we're doing something else, or we're semi-focused on what we're doing with the phone.
Sure.
Whereas a tablet tends to be a much more stoic and focused experience, because I mean they're a little less manageable than a phone is. A phone is very easy to hold in one hand and almost forget you're holding it.
Sure.
Whereas a tablet, you know you're holding it.
Right.
So
exactly.
it's a different experience. And so you really, in order to make the app as effective and as make the experience for the user as robust as you can, you really do have to keep that in mind, that it is a different experience.
Right. Absolutely. So, and then the other class you're doing is one code for the one. What is it?
2 screens for the price.
2 screens
for the code of 1.
For the code of 1.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a catchy line, but then it's really hard to re-say over and over.
Because you want to say the traditional line. So,
exactly.
But it is catchy though. So.
But it's also part of it is to try and make you think a little differently, because it is thinking differently. And one of the big things that's really nice, and as we were saying before, is being able to use things like portable libraries. Portable libraries really let you to allow you to take things like your in an MVVM situation, take your your models and your view model, and keep those into a central container, and then creating the separate UI experience for the two platforms.
That live on top of both of those.
Exactly.
Yes.
So then you're dealing with your view, and I find that what's happening with that tends to be, now I'm almost adding a second or a fourth element in, which is we have your view model, and your model.
Right.
I end up adding a controller because the controller has to affect the commands that affect the UI.
Okay.
And that's not always necessarily as portable as the other. So you end up writing usually I write a class that handles the control aspects, the command aspects of my MVVM app. For that particular platform.
Right.
Exactly, because the UI elements sit in different namespaces on the two platforms. So it doesn't lend itself to being part of the portable library. But what you can do is you can really take your business logic, your math, your calculations, all your problem solving, and your data access, your things like isolated storage and Azure mobile services, things like that, and put those into the portable class library and keep that central. So you write it once and you express it out for both applications, which really speeds up the development.
So and let's back up a little bit then. And what, portable class libraries, what is that?
Well, portable class libraries is basically what happens is it's a template type in Visual Studio. It's under the C# or the VB.
Right. So file, or add new instead of class, you add portable class.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, file new project, and then when you go in and choose the project type, you click Visual C#.
Okay.
Or you click Visual Basic,
Visual
VB.
Basic,
and then inside that, it will be the portable class library.
Okay.
It's not in the Windows Store or in the Windows Phone sub-project types. So you choose that, and then you'll get prompted to ask what platforms do you want to allow it for? Do you want to allow it for Xbox? Do you want to allow it for Windows Phone? Do you want to allow it for Windows Phone 7.5? Do you want to allow it for Windows 8?
Wow.
Silverlight? What versions of Silverlight? And so you choose the ones that you want, knowing that the more items you choose, the less commonality you'll have, right? Because it can only then address the namespaces and the classes that are common to all of those elements, right? So the more elements you choose, the less common elements you'll have. But also, the more elements you choose, the wider you can spread out your application's concept. So if your application concept will work well on Xbox and Windows 8 and Windows Phone, well then you can choose all of those, knowing that though you'll be restricted by those bounds, but you can then have your base logic, your base models and all of that done once. And then apply to all the projects. And then you just include the portable class library in your project like you would with any other reference. And you connect to it that way.
Nice. So, how many apps have you written as we've been talking here?
You mean how many have I written so far?
No, right now, in the last 10 minutes.
No, I haven't written any in the last 10 minutes.
I thought you had some automated thing going, like a bot going. But so seriously, how many apps have you written so far? We'll talk the phone, then we'll talk Windows 8, and then we'll bring them together.
Okay, so I'm on a big code push right now. So to date, I've released 138 Windows 8 apps or Windows Phone apps.
Wow.
And 62 Windows 8 apps. And this month I'm releasing 50 Windows 8 apps and 15 Windows Phone apps. So
what are you doing that you can write that many apps? Okay, you kind of explained actually a little bit with your custom controls that you're creating to be reused.
And again, it is like I've actually said in a number of talks that I've done. What I do is I have a huge collection of ideas, and anything that I come up with goes into this large spreadsheet. I organize it to the types of parts of the technologies that it uses, things like maps, sensors, accelerometer, microphone, sound elements. Is it a game? Is it, and then I basically I wake up in the morning, today I want to work on this. So I'll pick maps and I'll filter it to the maps and I'll build the controls for the map, and I'll basically, I've created almost like an application, an app factory.
Okay.
So where I'm building elements for it and it gets plugged into all the projects. And then once I get all of the base elements done, the spreadsheet's set to turn the line yellow, and I know that I've got to go in and just finalize that application. So it's what allows me to generate larger numbers of apps, because at any given time I've got 50 or 60 apps that are partly done.
Okay.
And so I'm always constantly working on several different apps. And so I'll go and collect, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to release these apps. Let's put these ones. So at this point, I'm close to about 65 apps being done by the end of this month. So
wow.
My goal is to have, between now and the end of June, to have done 100, what is it? I think it's 150 Windows, 150 Windows 8 apps,
okay,
and 50 Windows Phone apps, which will give me 200 of each app in the marketplace, each platform in the marketplace. And then
right,
at the end of the year, I'm going to try and do another push between June 30th and December 31st to do another 100 of each. So I'll
wow,
finish off the year with 300 of each.
nice.
It's what I've found, and I've done a lot of experimentation and playing around with the marketplace and different things in the different stores, and I found that realistically, the way to make a successful monetization of it is to not spend. I get much better ROI if I don't spend a ton of time developing big, huge monolithic apps. I do some of them. I do them for contracts and for other things, and that gives me a good ROI in that situation. But for my own apps, I find that picking apart pieces of the frameworks and working on them, perfecting them, and understanding how I know it, and making sure that I understand it as clearly as I can.
Right.
It allows me to build up my code library, which helps me for projects that I'm doing for clients.
Yeah.
But it also allows me to generate a large number of apps that I can then monetize through ads and through other things. And it's about numbers.
Yeah.
Reaching the largest number of people across the widest breadth. So I basically worked out a model that's allowed me to basically make money while I'm training myself to be really good on the platforms.
Wow, nice.
So I mean, which has worked well, because now I'm been fortunate enough to be able to get approached by larger companies and say, hey, will you build this for us, or can you build that? Which is nice, which allows for a higher level of monetization. But it's more about, for me, I've been experimenting with how do I, what is a popular app? What comes up with, what are the questions we're all trying to answer?
Yeah.
What's going to make my app popular? How am I going to increase my downloads? What have I got to do to get more money from this, or make the most out of my, there's no hard and fast rules, but I'm starting to find trends.
Right.
And it's really interesting. So now I'm able to share some of the trends with developers, which I find is really, really interesting, really cool. And the weird thing I found is that the less work and less overthinking I do into an app, the more popular it is. So I have an app that I just released about a month and a half ago that took me about 3 hours to make.
Okay.
And it's over 65,000 downloads. It's got 1,200, almost 1,300 reviews on it. It's sitting at 4 stars.
Wow.
Whereas previously, as most developers do, I write this great app, and I think it's the best thing, and it's the most amazing thing, and it's got 1,000 downloads after 6 months. And I'm pulling my hair out, as you can see, trying to figure out what did I do wrong. And it's not. The fact is, I was still at that time thinking of it as developing an application.
Right.
And the reason it's called an app is because it's a subset. It's doing one thing, get it done, if you can do something that makes the user smile, makes the user happy, and they can get in and out of it in the attention span that you're normally going to get from a mobile app, which is, from what I've found, is anywhere from 45 seconds to 2 minutes for the average use of the mobile app. If you can do that, that's going to become really popular. And that's what doing these things like portable flash libraries and reusable controls and all of these other things really help you to extend and enhance what you're doing and turn out really excellent experiences across several apps.
Absolutely. So you said sharing that knowledge. How do people find you on the interwebs?
Well, I'm actually a Nokia developer ambassador, so that means that I'm here to help developers all over the place get things like loaner phones and all sorts of contests that I do. Like right now, anybody who writes a new Windows Phone app, their first Windows Phone app, I'll give them a free Lumia 800. Okay. So that's
nice.
a cool thing.
We got Jack back here saying, help me out.
And I'm also doing another contest that's coming up that I'm going to do where If you already have a Windows phone app in the marketplace, I'm going to make up a thing where it allow you to enter how many downloads you have, how many stars your app has, and I'll confirm that. And then once I've confirmed that, you have 60 days. And the person who has the biggest improvement in their ratings and their downloads over those 60 days, and I'll help you do it.
Yeah.
I will give them a 620.
Nice.
So it's sort of helping you become more successful and giving you sort of a little bit of push to give you that extra reason to, like, even if you put that effort in and you don't make a ton of money, I'll give you a free phone, which is worth a few $100s. Right?
Sure, absolutely.
Now, the other thing that we're doing is develop.com, DVLUP.com. Fantastic site that has all sorts of different challenges, so that if you're looking at building an app, you can go in there and look at the challenges. Sometimes it'll spark a little, oh, I'm going to write an app that does that. That's cool. I totally have an idea for doing that. And you can get points for it, and those points you can trade them in to get new Lumia 920s and charging stands and Xboxes and Microsoft Xbox Live year-long subscriptions. You can get a Surface Pro.
Wow.
There's all sorts of things in there, so you definitely want to
develop.com.
Yeah, DVLUP.
And we'll put that in the show notes. Make sure we get that. And any other links that we're talking with you, Nokia Ambassador on Twitter?
I'm at Atley Hunter.
Okay.
I try to keep things really basic and simple. My blog is atleyhunter.com, so you can go there and find any of the contests or the different things that I'm working on. And I'll give you my email address and you can put it up on the site.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out.
Awesome.
All right.